Well, good morning and welcome to Children's Worship. Today we're focusing on telling our stories because it's October. And the important part today is the hour. Not just my story, but making sure that other people's stories also can be told. Yeah, so let's begin with our meta prayer song, our loving kindness song. And remember, it begins with me and then extending love to those around you and then to all people in Rochester and in the world. Here we go. May I be happy, may I be well, may I be safe and sound. May I be peaceful, may I be at ease, with love in my heart and all around. Turn to someone near you or to the screen. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe and sound. May you be peaceful, may you be at ease, with love in your heart and all around. To everybody in Rochester and in the world, here we go. May all be happy, may all be well, may all be safe and sound. May all be peaceful, may all be at ease, with love in all hearts and all around. Send it out. 1, 2, 3. Whew. So great. For our channel sliding today, we have Aiden and Evan and their dad, Ken.
Go. Can you smile?
And now our channel sliding words. Emma's going to lead us. Emma is on staff here at First Unitarian Church as our Director of Junior Youth Ministry, as well as doing all kinds of things behind the scenes as our RE Administrator. Here she is.
Double thumbs up for life. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather an online community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
For our mindfulness practice today, we're going to do a practice that connects us to one quality in nature, and that is the quality of freshness. Because in order to tell our story, we have to be connected to that voice inside of us. Yeah. So here is a picture of the squash that we grew this summer. Have you ever felt like that? Kind of dried out and on the downside and feeling kind of low? Well, let's take a few breaths and let out the sound in your body that expresses kind of tiredness, lowness, crankiness maybe, even wiltedness. Here we go. Breathing in and breathing out. And breathing in. And listen to your body breathing out. One more time. Breathing in. And breathing out. Good. Now, miraculously, this quality in nature is that it pops back up. So sometimes if your inner voice or your inner knowing is feeling like it's crushed down by everything going on, whether that's school or disappointments or whatever, there is this quality in nature that things, because life is as it is, pops back up. Here's a picture of the squash. I can't believe it, how it has come back up. So let's just take a few breaths, and on the exhale, we're going to open our bodies up and feel that sense of renewing energy. And you might sing a little or make a little sound that's just like lifts you up. Are you ready? Here we go. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. And breathing out. And breathing in. And breathing out. Yeah. Very good. For our moment of inquiry today, I'm going to ask you a question. Why do you think they put this white collar on this statue of this girl? Well, you can put your answer in the chat, or you can just kind of think about that. Why would they put a white collar like that on the statue? The statue's called actually Fearless Girl. Well, here's the answer. Recently, in the last 2 weeks or so, a very, very important woman named Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. Ruth was one of the Supreme Justices. The Supreme Court justices are kind of the top judges in the country. And the reason why it was so significant that she died is because Ruth Bader Ginsburg was somebody who really advocated for the stories and the voices and the feelings of others, especially women, to be heard when making laws in the country. She's famous for saying, "I dissent," meaning I disagree when there's situations of harm, when there's situations of prejudice or discrimination. And when she dissented, when she said no in the court, she didn't agree with things that were very much against UU values, she put on that white collar. And that's why that collar was put on that girl, because Ruth Bader Ginsburg was very much an advocate for gender equity. That means fairness for people regardless of what their gender is. Our story today comes from the Hindu tradition, and the story has a white dog in it. So I would invite you, anytime you hear the word bark or barking, to bark like this dog. Are you ready to practice once? Okay. Once there was a dog who barked. Did you bark? Okay, I guess we're ready for the story. Here it is. It's called The Barking Dog. Once, long ago, there lived a king who cared for nobody but himself. He had grown richer and richer from the high taxes levied upon his kingdom, while his people became poorer and poorer. Although the king's table spilled with sumptuous delights, his people ate one meager meal a day, and sometimes not even that. But the heartless king didn't care. He had all he wanted, wealth and power. His people, desperate for food, prayed fervently to Lord Krishna for help. One day, Lord Krishna, disguised as a hunter, came to the palace gate, intending to teach the heartless king a lesson. He brought with him an enormous white hunting dog. The king was fond of such pursuits, and this colossal dog fascinated him. The hunter and his dog were both welcomed into the palace grounds. Then, leaving the dog in the king's care, Krishna went for a rest. But this dog was no ordinary dog. The first time he opened his mouth to bark, a thunderous noise shook the stone walls of the palace, frightening the king and all his courtiers. Worst of all, it was soon apparent that the dog would not stop barking. Desperate, the king sent for the hunter. "What is wrong with your dog?" the king demanded. The hunter said, "The dog is hungry." Immediately, the king ordered that a big plateful of meat be brought. The mammoth dog licked the plate clean and began to bark again. A second plateful of meat was brought. The dog gobbled it up and continued barking and barking. With the palace walls beginning to crumble and his finest dishes and goblets crashing to the floor with each shuddering bark, the king could stand no more. "Take your dog away and leave my kingdom immediately," he commanded the hunter. "Your Majesty, we came at the request of your people, who are starving and struggling," said Lord Krishna. "The dog is here to stay." "Then what will make him stop?" "There are some people in this kingdom who eat all the food and do not share it with those who grow it, Your Majesty." Krishna leveled his eyes at the king. "As a result, your people battle hunger. This special dog feels the hunger of every person who does not have enough food." The king's eyes widened in disbelief. As long as one soul, even one soul is hungry, said Krishna, this dog too will be hungry, and it will bark. Now the king looked at both, frightened and confused, and perhaps even a little desperate. It had never occurred to him that the happiness of others was so important, even as important as his own contentment. But after all, he was king. Shouldn't his people simply serve and obey their king? His thoughts quickly fell apart as the dog seemed to double its efforts at disturbing the peace, barking twice and fast as loud. The king clapped his hands over his ears, knowing he would soon go mad. Something must be done, he said. The king gathered his wisest advisers together to consider the best course of action. They did not hesitate to make a unanimous decision. Each and every person in the kingdom must be fed right away. Accepting their judgment, the king began to shout, to point and command. Put all the servants on the palace grounds to work at once. Go to the storerooms and get the bags of rice, all of them that you can fill. Take all the meat from storage and gather every last vegetable from my garden and the fruit from my orchards. When those orders were set in motion, the king paused, sighed, and at last began to reflect on his years of selfishness. Full of remorse, he spoke kindly to his staff for the very first time. Continue to give generously of these foods, and keep on giving food until not a single person in the land is hungry. Soon a line of carts, teetering with bags and baskets of food piled high, rolled out through the palace gates. All that day and all the day after and the day after that, the carts continued until they had stopped at every village in the land and found every house where someone had suffered from hunger. At last the day came when the enormous dog stopped. The dog lay down quietly beside the king's throne. With the dog by his side, the king never reverted to his old ways. Only twice did the dog bark, to remind the king about justice, and each time the king quickly fixed the problem. Inside the palace walls, as well as outside them, the king and his people lived out their years in perfect peace. And that is the end of the story. I wonder what you think that story has to teach or remind us about. I love this story. You can write it in the chat or talk to your parents or your siblings about it. And here is a story reflection from one of our teenage youth, Maya Schwartz. And you'll hear her words about what she thought.
Hi. When I read the barking dog story, I thought of the first two UU principles. The first UU principle is the inherent worth and dignity of every person. For example, the king thought he was above everyone else. Then the dog reminded him to focus on the needs of others aside from himself. And the king came to realize that all people are worthwhile and deserving of having their needs met. The second principle is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. For example, the king came to realize that it was unjust for him to hoard all the food, and he decided to not stop giving out food until every last person was no longer hungry.
For our family connection today, I was asking one of our moms to share with us what her experience has been with trying to amplify or lift up the voices of other people.
Hi, I'm Christy Reich. Last week, I joined with several members of First U in a Get Out the Vote phone bank party for UU the Vote. I have phone banked to thousands of strangers over the past 5 years, but it still always feels nervous when I make that first call. But as soon as the person answers, and I really promise it is literally as soon as that first person answers, and I start my script, it just feels really right. And all the other calls are so doable. Listen, I know it is so hard to find any spare time these days between the kids, school for the kids, dishes, laundry, cooking, and just all the things. But phone banking is really pretty easy to sneak in if you can find just 30 minutes a day or even 30 minutes once a week. You the Vote makes it super easy. You just need a laptop, cell phone, and your smile. The computer dials the phone for you. You read the script and click buttons to indicate the person's responses, and that gives you the next portion of your script. It is surprisingly seamless and almost always rewarding. So if you think you want to do it, send your kids to the yard or to bed a little early, or let them have even more screen time and help get your fellow citizens registered and to the polls. Please feel free to connect with me if you have questions or worries or concerns or really want to talk it through or even just practice. And remember, we get to live our values with each phone call we make through You the Vote. Vote love.
Now, in your RE newsletter, I have two options. One is that we're going to have a phone banking as a community at First Unitarian, but also with your kids, you can download some letters and you can send them out on October 17th. There's going to be a mass mailing. So you can decorate them, you can write them out and print them and just send them off. And there's a list and addresses and everything there for you. So great big love from church coming your way. We'll see you next time. Here's some voices from Rochester joining together to try to make a difference in the world for peace and for justice.
We are one world, one voice, one heart beating. We are one world, one voice, one heart beating. We are one world, one voice,